Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, FF family. Today is Friday, May 23rd. This is the episode number 22 titled U.S. Economic Changes and Policy, Debt and Taxes. Boom, boom, boom. Pretty intense. My name is Dylan. I'm here as usual with Bradley and Nick. Before we get started, gentlemen, give me something good going on in your life. Nick, I'll start it off with you.
Oh, geez. I've actually got a lot of good things going on right now. So I know it's been a minute. I'll give updates. My daughter just graduated from high school. We had that whole experience. So
Nice.
Super proud of her. Also just completed my master's degree in my MBA. So
I feel like last episode you just finished your bachelor's degree, but
Right.
congratulations regardless.
Right, yeah. Thank you. And then I've still been doing the weight loss stuff, and I'm down almost 30 pounds. So
Nice.
I'm a
Oof.
lot of good happening.
Nice.
So not a lot, Nick. Anything else you want to throw out there? I don't know how we're
Yeah.
gonna... All right, Bradley, try to follow that one up.
How's that?
Oh, great.
I'm doing well. I had surgery a couple weeks ago and I'm feeling better, back to normal. And I had my gallbladder removed. I didn't really have anything technically wrong with it, but there was a growth on it which they thought could be cancerous, cancer-free, so obviously that's good news. But yeah, I'm like probably 80% back to normal.
Nice.
That's fantastic. For anyone that doesn't know, our break was because of that. Bradley had mentioned that last time, so we're just here for the follow-up on there. So, Bradley, it's good to see you're healthy. No follow-up needed, nothing crazy as of now.
Yep.
Awesome.
All good.
All right. As for me, I'm actually going to what's the word I'm looking for? Echo what Nick said. I'm down 10 myself.
Nice.
Hey, attaboy.
As officially as of yesterday, I'm down 10. I don't know if like fluctuation happens, but I'll give a pound either up or down of where I'm at, depending on when that happens. So that's where I'm at. So it's been pretty great. I got some good news with work stuff. It's progressing in a good way. Hopefully that goes down what I need it to. And besides that, I'm almost done with Platining Oblivion. It's been great. It's fantastic. For anyone that's also playing Final Fantasy XIV, I beat the Cruiserweight tier last weekend, and I got my weapon. If you know what that means, you know the struggle with PF. That's all I'll say. Everyone else...
14?
Yeah, it's like Mission Impossible 8. You don't know when it's going to stop, but... These two, side note, these two just watched Mission Impossible separately the same night across the country from each other somehow. Yeah, that'd been weird. All right. Well, gentlemen, there's nothing left. We're going to go over to the investment draft update. Each week, we go over these two fellows who have invested $100,000 into the stock market with certain stocks and other types of investments to see who can gain the most money over the course of time that we're doing this. Now, I guess we'll start off with Nick. Nick, we've been going for you anyway, so let's get back to this. So currently right now, after you invested $100,000, you're sitting at $95,665.22, a negative 4.33% change. Your biggest winner, Netflix, up almost 14%, when your biggest loser, Starbucks, down 33%. Didn't they just had like another strike over those uniforms we were talking about last time?
Yeah, fixing the important issues for sure.
Yeah.
Got it. All right, we'll start us off. Either what's working or with Netflix or why Starbucks failing. What do you got for us?
Yeah, no, I think the Netflix deal, I think we talked about them a little bit even before we picked stocks. They were making some decisions that were kind of not super popular. I think cracking down on the password sharing stuff and just, raising prices and different things like that. I think they're starting to see some benefit from there. I think they're starting to increase, value for shareholders and things like that. And so I think kudos for them, and it's paying off. I'm happy to see that. As far as Starbucks goes, I'm not 100% sure what's going on with them. I think long term, I still believe in them. I still think they're going to come out on top. But I think people are, not as excited to get their cup of morning Joe maybe here recently. But yeah, we'll see what happens with that one. I'm not ready to call it quits on Starbucks yet.
Oh, all right. Yeah, so I would definitely agree that Starbucks probably needs to realign its priorities a little bit. Workers are not having the greatest time with them either, and hey, profits are showing that too. Bradley,
Yo,
kind of looking a little different this time. I
very
think this is
different.
our first positive overall. So you're investing after investing $100,000, you're at $100,340.68, coming in with the steel chair plus
Ah.
0.34%
Yeah.
overall. Your biggest winner is Ford, up almost 12.5%. Your biggest loser, Meta, down close to 13%. What's working? What's not?
I think what's like Ford actually jumped ahead of the Berkshire Hathaway fund, and I want to talk about them for a second because Warren Buffett said he's stepping down as the CEO, I think, or whatever position he was. So it's funny because it made me also think of Tesla, which was one of I was like negative 40% on Tesla. Right now, I'm up 1.6% on Tesla. So Tesla is just like up and down. But one big thing that happened with Tesla is Elon Musk said he's coming back to the company or full time and stepping back from Doge and working with President Trump. But the same thing kind of happened, or the opposite happened with Warren Buffett, and the stock went down. And it's just so interesting to see the way investors act when it comes to the leadership of a company, right? Like Tesla's Q1 results weren't great. They really didn't look good. Like if you did a blind test, you would say something tragic happened to Tesla in Q1. But then, like the same day that they released the results, Elon Musk said he's coming back, skyrocketed. So I think it just goes to say, like with some of these stocks, people are looking at like leadership and the future of the company. And what profits that will bring, which is interesting because quarter over quarter, people freak out and react. We've learned that over the last couple months that people freak out and react to the stock market. But, people are having good reactions to Tesla, bad reactions to Berkshire Hathaway, even though I'm still positive there. And then Ford is kind of an anomaly. They're an American company, so I think they have a little bit of an up when it comes to the tariff talk with that.
Makes sense. It does show it. I mean, you can say Elon Musk is probably polarizing for a lot of people, while Warren Buffett's been like the stable. That's the guy you go to for like financial advice. So when one maybe steps away from the limelight, or one kind of that you need them more into and they go away, you can kind of see how that can affect the company. It's just vibes. It's all vibes. That's all it is. That's the secret. Hey, does it feel good? All right, we're good. We're in. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate that. We'll come back next week to see where we're at. Bradley, off the top of your head, how many more weeks do we have left of that?
When did we start? 2/12.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess technically we've gone through a whole quarter.
It is technical, yeah.
Did we say we were going to do a quarter, like 100 days or something?
It was initially set up that we were going to do I think it was at least a quarter is what we talked about. Yeah. Like, let's see where we're at from there to continue forward. Because we were always talking about our funds and how we're going to spend.
I mean, in that case, I won. So,
Okay, hey.
I think it's too soon. I think we got to, let it go a little longer to really understand the long-term impact.
We'll keep going.
Okay.
We'll keep going, yeah.
All right, perfect. Let's set a hard date on this then. Let's just make sure. So when does the next quarter end?
Let's say we finish up this quarter, we look at like July 1.
Okay, that makes sense. July 1. That's how long you got, Nick. You got to make sure the dust settles.
Can we put an asterisk next to that? July 1 if I'm winning.
Right.
And then we
I've got it. I'm writing it down.
This may never end if we do it that way.
Yeah. I'm just my hell is just hosting this back and forth for the rest of my life.
I don't lose unless I sell, so I'm still holding.
and I get to hear this every day forever. This is great. All right, gentlemen, thank you for that. Back to the topics we're going to get to today. As a reminder, today we're going over the U.S. economic changes and policy changes with debt and taxes. I'm going to start off with you, Nick. Honestly, during our time, we haven't had a lot of big changes when it comes to the economy. We're on about 3 weeks, correct?
Yeah.
In that time, I mean, recently we've had some changes, but honestly, during that time, there wasn't a lot until when we got back here. First off, a no tax on tips bill has passed the Senate. It's also included in the big, beautiful bill, and no one knows how many words I've got, and no one knew what words are before I showed up. And then, how do you feel about the no tax on tips?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like there's two sides of something like that. You know, you've got the actual like impact to Americans, and you have like the political side of things. You know, I I've worked in tip industries before, and I know a lot of people who are also waiters and waitresses and stuff like that. And maybe this is the dirty little secret. I don't have quantifiable data for it, but like how much of actual tips get reported to be taxed in the first place? Like, and maybe I'm speaking from a very small perspective, but I don't think there's people paying a lot of taxes on their tips today. And so like that's where it's like it feels political of like, hey, I'm rallying for the hardworking, individuals, no taxes, but it's like, well, I wasn't paying that anyways, and so I don't know. I guess my biggest question is like, what's the point? I guess like what is actually like we're not going to be making a whole ton of money off of tip income anyway, so we're not losing probably a whole lot. Like, is this I don't know. I'm kind of I don't think it's going to have a positive or negative impact. I think it's just a political like, hey, look, I did this thing for you guys that doesn't actually equate to a whole lot more money in people's pockets, if that makes sense.
What I love about it is everyone, it was 100-0. Everyone voted for it. So everyone was looking at each other to see like, who's like, are they going to vote no? Or like, is this going to be a Democratic thing versus a Republican thing? And then I think like us regular people in the background, we're just waiting for someone to move to see like, what does our guy say? Or like, I vote for her. What did she vote for? To like kind of like figure out if we like this or not. But in the end, it is a populist thing to do. I do think with technology, taxes on tips have increased with credit cards. Tips, like that stuff gets reported more easily. So people have started actually being taxed on that. And there's so many tips with technology, like tips, like in those systems, they turn it around. It's like, do you want to tip us 20%, 30%, or 50%? All that stuff, like the more that happens, the more it's visible to the IRS. So I do think it's a bigger impact than it used to be when it was just, here's $5 cash. So I think it's a little bit different these days, but I do think people still, still don't claim cash tips generally, and everything else that will kind of have to get claimed.
So Nikki kind of brought this up. So, I don't work in a service industry personally. So what do I get out of this?
Yeah, I don't know that you do get a whole lot. Maybe you're encouraged to go get into a tipping industry to take advantage of some of that. I guess maybe it's a ploy to, or not a ploy, but a tactic to get more of the labor force into roles that are more popular with tipping and stuff like that. Like, I don't know.
One thing with it is it's only $25,000. So like a lot of people are worried that like people are going to use fraud to move their money to tips, right? Like business partners transferring money to each other.
I didn't think of that.
It's $25,000 maximum, right? So like, let's say the three of us are millionaires, we own our business, and we pay each other out in tips $200 million, and like, no taxes. Well, 199,700 or 975,000 of that is taxed. 25,000 isn't taxed. So it's not like you can't really scheme the system that much. It does, like, if anyone, it does help. It helps those who make taxes or tips. So it's a pretty good system to make sure it's not a fraudulent system.
Well, I would like $25,000 of my salary to be in tips from now on, because that'll save me a couple of dollars in taxes. So.
It would, yeah.
All right, I'll put it on your next tax form. Speaking of your next tax form, does this start in 26 then, or is it right away?
Well, it's only passed through the Senate. It would have to pass through the House and then the president. And that's just one specific bill. There's the big, beautiful bill, which is like the new tax budget. It's also included through there. So, like, if it doesn't pass the House, then the big beautiful bill will have to go back to the Senate, and that will have to be signed in, and then the president will sign it in. That one will be the 2026 budget. Everything starts in 2026. The no tax on tips by itself, I'm not sure exactly when.
Got it. And I know this for sure, but like during the campaign, both the major political players that were there, Harris and Trump, both supported this no tax on tips.
Well, you can't be the guy who says,
yeah,
no, I want to tax. Like, if the other person says it, you kind of have to say, I agree.
You're like, no, I don't want to protect babies. Well, that guy wants to protect babies. He's a problem.
Oh, geez.
So yeah, it didn't. I do keep in touch with some things. I was like, there's no way this doesn't pass, because you're right. It's such a Nick. I kind of feel the way you did, where it's like a nothing burger with it. It was just it's a layup. It's a layup bill. Everyone can look good at the end of the day.
It's there to make everyone who voted for it look good, and they all kind of do. Like, oh, they care about the little guy.
That's how they sound. Back in the year 1920. All right. Bradley, on to you. So, speaking about taxes in general, there's a lot of confusion about taxes and tax brackets in general right now. I don't know if that'll ever go away, to be fair. I feel like everybody is confused on it. Some say there's more money you make, they raise your taxes more. Mm-hmm. Can you clarify just the process for us?
So, I think what's important is, like, you see a lot of crappy financial advice on, like, TikTok or whatever, where people say, like, hey, if you're going to get a raise that puts you over the next tax bracket, don't do it because they'll increase your taxes. And a lot like this big, beautiful bill, like, people are talking about tax brackets. There's just so much confusion, but it's relatively simple. So we have a progressive tax system, and it's on our website where we broke down from the IRS. So you get 10% of your income taxed if you make $11,925 or less. Anything over that, the next group of money gets taxed for the next group. So all of the $11,925 you make gets taxed at 10%. The next bracket is, let's just round up to $12,000 to $48,000. You get taxed 12% for that $37,000-ish dollars. You still get taxed 10% for the $12,000 below that. And each bracket, only the money you make that goes over that bracket gets taxed that much. So it's like an economist would say, should you hire someone if each person you hire brings in less profit? Like, okay, let's say I have a company of 5 people, and 5 people are earning me $100. The 6th person is earning me $90. And eventually I get to 20 people. That person is only earning me $1, a net profit. Should I continue to hire that person? Well, the answer is yes. That's $1 extra. So you should always make more money. It's just that more money, you keep a little bit less of it. But it doesn't mean the money you made before that actually goes down. You keep the same amount. So the reason why that's important is because, especially, like, everything's hyper political right now, and it's broken into, like, our financial mind of how we understand things. And, like, this big beautiful bill, people are like, this is a tax break for billionaires, whatever. You can think that's good, that's bad, whatever. But essentially what it is, it's clarifying the tax bracket for 2026. Every single tax bracket goes up, right? If this bill passes, it stays where it is. That's not the equivalent of a tax break, like, it just stays where it is. So I think it's important for people to understand, like, hey, whether or not your taxes go up, you should always make more money, and you can keep your money. You keep less of your money that you make, but you're still making more.
So just to clarify for everyone, when you hear careful about getting a promotion, you get $1 extra, you're going to be in a new tax bracket, don't do it. You lose money. Always go excuse me, always go for the promotion
Right.
and continue to gain more money.
Yeah.
Period.
You make
Perfect.
less of
The
that
reason-
$1 than you do the other $300, but you still make extra money.
Yeah, I'm still getting 375 cents.
Yeah,
You know, that's, yeah. Now, that being said, the reason I bring that up is because I've heard that all my life. We have all talked about
Yeah.
that poor person mentality where Nick had brought up before, spend all the money you got, right? Always go and spend it. And then I've heard that don't promote because of the tax bracket thing. So I want to be clear. I've always thought that was a little weird because why would
Yeah.
you not want to make more? So thanks for clarifying that. That's a personal one. Now, I do want to follow up back on just the confusion of the tax bracket. So with everything you brought up, how does this money impact like the debt or budget or revenue in general for the economy?
Yeah. So I was looking into this because I was very curious about our tax brackets. And Dylan, you and I have had conversation about like should someone making $12,000 really get taxed 10% of their income? And I think we can kind of agree like if you only make $11,000 a year, maybe let that guy keep it, right? Well, I did some math. So I did some math and did some studying. The majority of our revenue, and I think we made 4 or 5 trillion. I know 1 trillion is a huge difference. But the majority of our revenue comes from the first few brackets. The reason why is because there are less people in the top bracket, and every single person in the top bracket is paying that 10, 12, 22%. And the majority of people are taxed at least 12%. A lot of us are taxed at 22%. So essentially, let's say the three of us were all like, hey, we're really cool, nice people. We're going to raise the bottom bracket to $48,000. And anyone making less than $48,000 doesn't have to pay taxes. That would be good for a lot of people, but that means everyone making more than that who are already at the top, no one's paying that bottom bracket. That's probably like $2 trillion in revenue that we lose. So like the majority of our income, like this is another thing, like when it comes to our debt and revenue, we don't make that much money. We make a few trillion, but we spend trillions more. So a lot of our income is coming from those bottom few brackets. And then a lot of income is coming from that very, very top bracket because it's so much money that's being taxed. So our budget is just out of control and our revenue is great. But it's like, I was thinking about it like this. Let's say you go into a neighborhood and there's this big, beautiful house, like a $3 million house. And there's like a BMW and like a Mercedes. And let's say the wife is a lawyer, the husband is a doctor, they make a bunch of cash. Their house is worth $3 million, that's on a mortgage. All their car payments are $1,500 to $2,500. They buy their kids stuff, they put their money on credit, their vacations on credit card, but they make a crap ton of money. But they're still in debt, $700,000 from credit cards and car loans, and $3 million in house debt. Like, yeah, they make a lot of money, but they're in debt because they spend too much. That's essentially where we're at as the American government. We're rich as hell, but we spend money like we think we're richer than we are.
Yeah, so while you were going over that, I was looking up. I was like, 2 trillion, that doesn't seem like a lot that we can actually like find some good headway in.
Yeah.
And currently right now we're sitting at as of May, it's May, right? Yeah, May 5th, we're at 35 trillion in debt.
Yeah.
Good mercy. That's a lot. So yeah, currently right now that's a lot of money. I'm going to go back to our previous episode where it just feels like we're playing with Monopoly money and the numbers just don't matter right now. And you broke it down yourself. So if anyone goes to our websites or like goes to our social media pages where Bradley has either shorts or reels, he breaks down how much this number truly is if we take the smallest amount that you can think of and just multiply it out, and it feels unobtainable at this point. Like any sort of way to get out. So anyway, that being said, thank you for that, Bradley. I appreciate the tax bracket knowledge. I feel like we always mention, like, it's something I had just talked about. People saying careful about promoting, you just lose out on money.
Yeah,
But because that's also in itself a fallacy, because then there's also like titles and like you get leadership experience,
sure.
yada yada,
Yeah.
potentially, right? So there's a lot of other things that happen on there, but that's very important. I think
Nick,
it's one of the things
real
that
quick,
people
Nick.
miss out.
I saw you roll your eyes a couple times when I talked about like people who give you that advice. I'm assuming you've also seen bad advice like that before.
Oh yeah, no, I think what it stems from. So there was a situation, back in the day, we had to rely on things like food stamps and stuff like that. And I think there is a mentality, or not even a mentality, but a reality that, there was a time where we got a 25-cent raise and we were disqualified for some federal assistance. And so I
Yeah.
think maybe that is part of the mentality of
That's a good
like,
point.
hey, if you get more, you lose. So you don't lose in your salary, but if you are getting any sort of like government assistance, food stamps, things like that, they are very strict of you go over this and then the benefit ceases or drops and stuff like that. So I wonder if, Dylan mentioned the poor mentality. I wonder if some of it stems from that, because that is a
That's a good
reality,
point.
but it does not translate into salary. 100% marginal tax rate
Yeah,
does not work
Yeah.
that way. So
Yeah.
I could definitely see that too. I think it's when you're living in poor middle Missouri, it definitely happens a lot. That's a good point. I never thought about that. Thanks, Nick. And hey, since you wanted to chime in, Nick, I'm actually going to pass it back to you on this next one we got. Moody, big old Moody, downgraded the U.S. from AAA to AA1. What's with these battery size changes? What does that mean? I don't even know what you're talking about.
yeah.
So, like, how's this going to fit in my remote?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting too because the whole grading system is a system that's designed to let you know how likely that entity is to repay its debt, right? And so when you downgrade the U.S., like I think if we get in a position where Uncle Sam is not repaying his debt to citizens, like we're probably in a pretty bad spot, and Moody probably doesn't matter if that happens. You know what I mean? So it is ironic that we were downgraded, which I get it, right? The debt, different things that have kind of said, hey, maybe there is a higher chance of the U.S. defaulting on some debt. Okay, I get it, but in the reality, I don't know. I think our worlds change a lot if we get in a space like that. I think what actually happens. Well, technically speaking, and I say that with quotations because I don't know if this will actually happen, but people can demand a higher interest rate when borrowing, with like bonds and things like that, because the U.S. has a worse rating. But like, is that actually going to happen? Like, I don't know. We'll see. We'll
Right.
see if rates go up. Like, if anything, I think for us, like, cool. Rates go up. I get paid a higher percentage rate to loan the government money and get repaid. Like, I think it's a good thing. I don't know. It seems a little comical to me to downgrade the U.S.'s ability to repay its debt. But hey, if it gets me a couple extra percentage points and a bond, I'm not going to hate on it, I guess.
Well, here's one thing I think is funny. So, well, like you said, like the rating is to show someone how much that person would repay their debt. What is it going to be like? China's like, ooh, Moody
Ooh,
downgraded.
America.
I'm not going
Yeah.
to be able to lend you any money. Sorry, America.
I'm not going to that next tariff meeting
Crap.
because of this.
Yeah. But at the
Before
same
we,
time,
if I can, real quick, Bradley,
Yeah.
just real fast. I think just in case people have never heard of Moody or what this is, I think a good opportunity to kind of go over that first, and then we continue. So first, either one of you, who
Yeah.
is Moody? What are they?
Moody is essentially does exactly what Nick said, and they explain, like, they give organizations credit ratings. So here's a fun story for you, and I think I clearly agreed that like the U.S. has a spending problem. We're in extreme massive debt. But let's roll it back to 2007 when Moody had all these financial institutions, all these banks, AAA rated, said they wouldn't default on their loans and default on their derivatives. And what happened just a few months later? Like hundreds went out of business. So that it's like everyone's like, trust me, you can borrow from them. Don't worry, you can buy a house. Moody's like, yeah, they're right. They will pay you back. They'll cover your mortgage. It didn't work out very good. So I'm not saying Moody is useless, but I mean, look at the 2008 mortgage crisis. But yeah, they essentially do that. Think of like Equifax or whatever that gives personal credit ratings. It's like that
Mhm.
for organizations.
And then just a couple more follow-ups with it. So who runs Moody? Is it a private organization? Is it government run? What is it?
It's not government run, but I don't know who, like the people, but it's not government
Okay.
run.
Okay, so it's a private sector
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
That has it. Okay. And then is it in the United States?
Pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it's US based. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know. Yeah.
It's that self-hate right there. That's what that is. We need to do better. My last question was just in general with the rating system. So a quick overview. So AAA is the highest you can go. Is that correct?
I think so.
Or can we
I'm
go
fairly
quadruple
certain
A?
it is,
What?
Do we have an S tier for?
Yeah, you took my thing. I was gonna say that.
Or grade.
And then I was gonna make that Ubisoft joke where they're like, we're making quadruple A video games now instead of just the triple A.
Oh boy.
Yeah. AAA. So AAA is the highest that Moody uses. There's also
Okay.
S&P who uses AAA as the highest. So there's multiple organizations outside of Moody. And I think AAA is the highest. Yeah.
Perfect. I think it was good just to make sure, in case you don't know what it is, we're not
Yeah.
speaking German to people,
Yeah.
But continue on with your point with where we're at.
Yeah, I'll just jump in, Nick, but like I think the idea is like our debt is so bad that it's like how could we pay it off? Here's a fun way. Part of our budget every year goes to paying our debt. But also whenever like we can't pay our debt, we lend or we borrow more money. So essentially what like I think it was like 800 million, right? There was like we couldn't pay that debt, or we put 800 million towards debt, or 800 billion, and then we're like, well, we can't pay the rest of the debt, so what did we do? We borrowed that money. So essentially, the way the government runs is like if I can't pay my credit card, I open a new credit card and pay the bills with that credit card. So it's a terrible system. And like I get the AAA rating dropping, but we're always gonna pay it because we always can. We can just borrow more, print more money. And like regardless of what you think of politics, I think that's the idea over the last few years is like something has to be done. Are tariffs the right answer? Who knows? If you hate Donald Trump, the answer is no. If you love him, the answer is yes. But like something does have to be done. Like, is it Doge? Well, they saved 170 billion out of 36 trillion. I don't have a science degree in math, but that's not a lot.
Carry the T.
So like
dot the
something has
three.
to be done. And I guess Moody's like, we'll do it for you. We'll downgrade you one.
Now, Bradley, since I have you for the last one here, so overall, with I guess the whirlwind of between the big beautiful bill, everything with spending that we talked about, what can we learn from the government's budget/debt issues overall as the average Joe?
Yeah. I think that this is such a political thing and like everyone's mind is a little fried, but I think the answer's pretty clear. The US just spends too much money, Like going back to that rich family where there's the doctor and the wife is the lawyer. It's like the wife is like, "Listen, you need to open your own practice to her husband who's a doctor to make more money." And then the doctor says, "No, you need to stop spending money on shoes." Meanwhile, the doctor's booking a Disney vacation for $15,000 on his credit card, and they're both right and they're both wrong at the same time. Like they're just spending too much money, right? They're rich, they make money, but they're millions in debt. That's the US. Everyone's arguing back and forth, but we spend too much money. Now, where should we cut the spending? That's where it gets really like people really get mad at each other, right? So I think what I can learn is like, okay, like our number one priority with Freedom Finances, anytime we give financial advice, is you have to have a budget. You have to know how much you're bringing in and how much you're spending. And then number two is like you have to get rid of a bunch of that bad debt. That's what the US government should do, is like get rid of their debt, stop borrowing, stop spending so much. And it's a vicious cycle. That's what people have attempted to do. Doesn't matter if you have a D or R in front of your name. No one's really good at it. They're addicted to spending money, you know. They're addicted to credit cards and the fancy new cars and the big houses, and that's just not how you become successful in the end. You know, you have to have your budget. You have to get your debt in line. You have to get your spending in line. And for me, that's just how I look at the government. Is like, I don't want to be like them.
So you don't want to build a new $10 billion dome across the United States? I heard that one. That was pretty funny.
A $10 billion dome?
Yeah. It was part of like the big beautiful bill. You know, I heard on a headline somewhere that Trump wants to put a dome to protect us, and it costs like $10 billion. It just goes what you're saying. Like, regardless of what we cut.
Are you talking about an Iron Dome?
I think so.
That's not a literal dome. That's a missile defense program.
Sure. I mean, regardless, it's
right.
a thing. We're putting another $10 billion into it. I'm just saying. Your point of the government spending.
Right.
Like if we are going to cut a bunch of things, now we're just going to add that $10 billion back on top for another Iron Dome. You know,
they all do it. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, people
100%.
We're
in
like,
this
well,
not
we're
because
not
of
have
Trump.
Enough revenue. Well, like, let's cut this. Blah blah blah. So I don't know. What do you think, Nick? Do you look at it and you're like, I want to change?
And to be clear, before I get over to him, it is a golden dome. That is what's in the big beautiful bill. I did make sure because I thought I was crazy. That's the name of it. It's funny. I just think it's funny.
I'm gonna have to fact check that.
Yeah, go
I'm
for it,
please.
Please.
A dome over the U.S. right now. I think that's the.
Like, I do recognize that it's not an actual. We have a circle over the United States, but it is the Golden Dome. That was part of it. I just thought the name was hilarious.
Yeah, no, I agree with you guys on a lot of those points. I think the way government is run, and like we find ourselves in this hole that a lot of people that are alive today did not dig themselves into, but they find themselves with the responsibility of trying to get out of it. And I think we are not making enough money for what we spend, and I think government spending is crazy. But like, what realistically do you do? Like, I think they've talked about the last time we shut down the government, we had how many non-essential government employees that were out of work. And it's like, well, why do we have so many non-essential government employees in the first place? Like, maybe there's a place you can start,
That's a pretty funny point, because it's like everyone freaks out and then they're like, well, don't worry. The police still work. The military still works. And it's like, so what do they do?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
What is their job, anyways?
Some about a stapler, right?
Well, we were just at one of the veteran cemeteries this last weekend, and one of the guys is a government worker, and I guess they have to send a either weekly or daily recap of 5 things that they did as part of like the Doge initiative and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
And they all hate it. They're like, this is dumb, but it's like, hey, I don't know. Maybe that person isn't essential. I don't know.
Yeah. I think another point with that is like it's like our government is like super inefficient and old school, and this is outside of politics, but like there's a lot of like people who are on payrolls or getting paid who don't exist or died or don't work for their government anymore. Like, that's the kind of stuff, if you were a business owner, you wouldn't do. It's like if you have kids that you're giving an allowance to, and like each year you're like, I'll give you $100 more a month or whatever, right? And then they're 40 and you're like, how much am I paying my 40-year-old kid? Like I'm paying him $12,000 a month or something. And it's like, they're 40, they make more money than me. Like, that's the US government sometimes. And I think it's just like, let's learn from some bad things and like some people who just can't stop spending. But like that scenario of like the family who puts their vacations, their $15,000 vacations on credit cards, and they have big cars, all these things. Has anyone seen the movie This Is 40?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I
No.
don't think so.
It's a Judd Apatow movie with Paul Rudd, and it's about this family of four. Like, and the mom owns a store, the dad is like owns his own record company, and they're behind on their mortgage payments, but they drive a BMW and a Mercedes. It's like exactly my scenario. And he gives $80,000 a year to his dad to help his dad. And it's just like, man, people are rough out there. It's just like, take care of yourself and your money. Because our government doesn't really teach us the right way to do it.
Well, and I think
I
the
mean,
reality of it
we've
is
talked
too.
about that.
Yeah, like I think Dave Ramsey, I don't know if you've ever seen him, and he gives like, hey, what should you do to like fix these scenarios? And it's always like really drastic, like never spend money again, eat top ramen for the rest of your life, and like every penny goes towards debt. But it's like the reality of it is there's a lot of changes that would have to be made in order to get out of this hole. I don't
Yeah.
think people are wanting to make those changes because I think, you know, that family that you described, they would have to change their lifestyle in order to really, you know, fix things. And most people don't want to.
Yeah.
I think, and I mean, not to sound, I think it is like in a place of privilege. Like we live in the United States, everything's like we're always in that I need it now. I want that instant gratification mentality. So some people really just can't fathom just going to pick up the food at the restaurant instead
Yeah.
of Grubhubbing it or
Yeah,
DoorDashing
that's a
it
good point.
anymore.
Yeah.
I think that same mentality is carrying over, and the people that would cut that, like I know I joke about having my collection back here, but realistically, I'm not paying a subscription to play
Sure,
these, right?
fair
Like
enough.
I'm one and done, and it's
Yeah.
thrift shops. Like that's the majority of
Yeah.
it, and so those are things like subscriptions, DoorDash. I mean, what didn't DoorDash come out with that credit
Yeah,
thing? What was
buy
that?
now, eat now, pay later. Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't do
did that
that.
ever fall? Did that fall through, or is that still happening? Sorry, this is
I don't
completely
know.
off
I
topic.
don't know.
Okay, don't do that. That's the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. Anyway, let's wrap this up, gentlemen. Just for the last little bit of time we have. Thank you both for chiming in for these topics today. I'm gonna leave it open the board. So, for the last one, let's start off with Nick. Talk to us about your plans for the upcoming week. Talk about what's going on in your life, and then also, if you have any advice for anybody listening, what is some financial, personal, or health advice you would give them?
Yeah, I'd say this weekend I've got a couple days off of work. We've got a few things that we're looking to do. We're actually doing some shopping for some new vehicles, or maybe new to us vehicles. I don't know how I
Nice.
feel about brand new. So we're
I
probably
think we all
going to
feel
be
that way.
yeah, probably going to be doing a lot of research and trying to figure out the best deals and things like that, and doing a lot of comparisons, which I would recommend anybody who's in the market to do as well. Make sure you're making smart financial decisions. And then I think the last thing I'll say is, I want to rewind time a month or two ago when the market was crashing. I just want to I don't think there's any accountability for anybody out there.
Oh.
And I remember TikTok videos that were like, guys, this is different. You like the market is changing. Do not don't think this is just a dip. Don't buy the dip. Like it's different. And there was no accountability for any of those guys. I just want to remind everybody that, Freedom Finances said, don't panic, continue to invest if you have the money. Maybe it goes down, but the market will recover. And I'd say the market has recovered pretty well since then. So I just want to throw that out there that, we were the calm in the storm. And I hope everybody appreciates that, because there were other people that gave bad advice and there's no accountability. So I just want to call that out.
Nick, I love the word accountability and that you brought that up. And I just if anyone listened to someone who said that, and that person said change your retirement fund or do this or that, know that that person is no longer reliable. Maybe they have some contrition, and they've asked for forgiveness, but that person, people who lie to you that said, whether it was politics or for clicks or whatever, those people aren't your friends. Those aren't the people you should be going to for advice. It wasn't a stock market crash. Basically what we learned is if you even like think of the word tariff or start typing TAR, the stock market, like sell. No one wants to hear that word. That's what we learned. It doesn't mean the world's over, you know? And I think accountability's a great word, and hold those people accountable. You know, if you're following someone and they told you that, unfollow, like thumbs down, whatever.
And I'll say, Nick, in that one, I think when Bradley and I did our solo one, I briefly mentioned, because it was kind of recovering at that point, I did a purchase. I did my usual,
Yeah.
each month I dip into my check and I say, okay, I'm going to divvy it out into these stocks and positions I have. I mean, I'm up higher now because of it, because overall it did go up over time. I mean, did I gain $100,000 off of it? I mean, maybe if I put in 100,000, I got another off of that, sure, but
Yeah.
no, I didn't. But it was what we talked about. You're buying in on the market at a discount, and I was able to buy in at a discount. And this month, I'm gonna go and contribute the same amount again, right?
Yeah.
It didn't change. I was responsible for what I could afford, and I was in at a point where I got a sale, and it was a benefit for me.
Yep. I love it.
And well, hey Bradley, since you love it so much, tell me about you. So, what's something you're going on in your life this week, and also some personal, financial, or health advice you might want to give out?
Yeah, I think I'll start with personal financial advice. Like, being calm with your finances is important, and like not freaking out. So don't overreact. Like, usually you're gonna lose the most money the more emotional you are about your finances. Something going on. I think Carrie's going to Springfield today to visit some friends, so she'll be in your guys's town. She's gonna drive there this weekend, so I'll just be chilling this weekend, finishing this book. New book alert: How to Sell a Haunted House. Pretty funny.
Is that a real, like?
No.
I just heard
It's a
tell us. I'm
novel.
sorry.
It's a
Okay,
novel.
okay.
Yeah.
It's
so
a how
Get
to
into real
for dummies.
estate.
Any Dean
Yeah.
Koontz fans out? He has a new book coming out. I know you two aren't novel fans like I am, but I'm gonna get his new book. Blast through that real quick. Quick note: I did look up the Ways and Means Committee House bill. Just for accuracy, there's not a single mention of the word dome or gold in the actual document. It's a 47-page document. I actually did go through it over the last couple days just for fact checking a million different people on a million things. It's not in there, so whoever told you that lied to you. It's not actually in there. Like I said, hold them accountable. If people are lying to you, hold them accountable.
We love the big, beautiful bill, the Golden Dome, baby. That's where we're at. All right, cool. Anything else, Bradley?
No.
I'll follow suit. This week I'm enjoying a 4-day weekend starting today, so I took a little extra time
Nice.
off, had some time built up. I'm doing that, taking my daughter and some family out to a zoo on Monday. That's what we're gonna do.
Nice.
If you know, Bradley, you might remember it, but Nick, for sure, I would hope. You know the Stratford Zoo that's down there? That's near that area. Yeah, that's where I'm gonna go. Fun fact: I don't know. I think it's Wild Animal Safari, maybe. I don't know, but the Exotic Animal Paradise is what that area used to be called. The zoo in general when I was there. And fun story for Dylan lore here. When I was a kid and I went through that, I had the little bag they give you with food, right? And all the animals run around, they chase you. I got chased in the car, to be fair. Like, I wasn't running, but it was an ostrich too. So it came in through the window, and I was like, okay, have some, and just dove into the bag and then took it out. Yeah, it scared the crap out of me. And I remember very clearly, even at a young age, just looking in the back window, I just see the thing running after us, trying to get more food. Yeah, it was awesome. As far as some advice I would give, I mean, kind of what Nick talked about a little bit, which was earlier about health. Something I've had to learn, as far as health goes, weight loss, something that I've learned is there's not really a secret technique. Like, you're not going to drink coconut oil at the end of the day and lose a pound. You're not going to be drinking something. I mean, I guess so. If that's all you ate, that's fair. 100%. But if, on top of whatever you're eating, there's not like one trick to do so. It's usually very simple. It's just I've learned to eat less, thus losing weight, and then still maintaining more of my boxing routine.
Yeah.
So that's
nice.
been beneficial. I would, the same way you don't trust these stock people on TikTok, don't trust the health people. They're like, here's the 15 different ways you should
Oh
lose
my
weight.
gosh, I
and
hate those ads. Like, this is the
Yeah.
secret. Like,
yeah,
okay.
this is the one your doctor doesn't want you to know about. That's it.
Oh,
So-
side note.
Yeah.
One of our finance tips of the day was to take care of your health, and we're not health experts, but like I think it was like anywhere from 25 to 33% of retirees' budgets are spent on their health. So the more you can take care of your health now, the better your finances will be when you retire. Just so that's something I need to work on, and you guys are working on. But it's good for your finances to take care of your health.
Makes sense. All right, gentlemen, that's it. So, everybody, I do appreciate watching today. This has been the Freedom Finances Podcast, episode 22. Really appreciate y'all. Have a good morning, afternoon, and evening. We really appreciate you, and see you later.
Adios.